Good time of day. This is Pinkerton, and today I wanted to just yap a bit. I have a few video ideas in the works, but it's going to be a while until I can get a fully dedicated video out, like fully scripted and everything, if it is even fully scripted. So instead, I just wanted to yap about a story. I had an experience happen to me recently where I was with my fiance at a game store, and I happened to see a perfectly brand new copy of Coyote and Crow for sale. And Coyote and Crow is the worst tabletop game I've ever had an experience with. Um, and I was very excited for it. I even purchased the Kickstarter and everything, but it turned out to have many, many issues. I want to preface this by saying that I am an American Indian. I come from a tribe in the Algonquin area. So whenever I saw the Kickstarter for this game, and it was entirely predicated on like being a tool for American Indians to really explore their identity and teach other people their identities, I was very excited. I just got the very basic package for the game, which was just a digital copy. One thing I really liked about the Kickstarter, though, and I will give them props for, instead of having some very fancy schmancy things like if you pay extra, you get dice or a statue or something that'll just look pretty on your wall. Any extra copies you bought for like the higher tiers went to libraries on reservations. So if you bought like 5 physical copies, you would get one, you'd get a digital copy, and then 4 additional copies would be sent to various reservations libraries for kids to play with and like get an experience to join the hobby. And I thought that was really cool. I hope more games will do that in the future with their Kickstarters. Anywho, so I support the Kickstarter, and then in early January 2021, I get the email that says, "Hey, your download's ready to go. The game's all set." So super excited. I download it, and around that time, we have a tabletop session coming up with my group. We were playing a Pathfinder First Edition game, and I got the email right before the session was about to start. So I told my friends, "Hey guys, while we're doing all the setup, I'd like to show you this game I just did the Kickstarter for. It looked really cool." I want to make a note that during the Kickstarter process, I didn't really get any edits or like notices about the progress besides the game's going good. Here are some of our assets. Okay, the game's done. Here's your copy. So I go to the session with my buddies, and whenever we're DM's getting all set up, getting his notes ready, I pull up the book, show my laptop screen to my friends, and we start scrolling through, and I start talking about it. And one of the things that catches my eye immediately is there's a section with the header, "A Note to Native Players." And it basically says that this book has a lot of real world tribes, but it's been hard to mention them because they just don't have the manpower to really go into depth on all of them. So feel free to add your own rules, change things, do whatever you need to better reflect your culture. It's like, that's cool, because I personally come from a very small tribe with a very specific set of beliefs, so that made me happy to see. And then below that was a section titled, or not titled, but it had a paragraph that said, "A note to all non-native players." And that raised some alarm bells in my head, because it's like, okay, maybe this will just be a like quick sensitivity thing of please be mindful, please talk to your group. And it then listed all the things that you cannot do while playing the game, just outright. Like, most of them were character creation things. It's like you can't name a specific tribe. You have to use one of the preset tribes, which are all based on the 5 Oklahoman tribes who walk the Trail of Tears. There's some preset names that you had to select from. And my apologies, I forgot to mention the core like conceit of the system. The game is set in a non-colonial alternate history where people from England and like that whole section of the planet never made it to the Americas, and as such, the indigenous peoples were able to just move forward with society as they saw fit. And it's a very neat solar punk game where the kind of main campaign it gives you is to head from the present day Canada area to the present day Central America. And anyway, so immediately being told, hey, if you're white, you're not allowed to interact with these parts of character creation, really just didn't sit right with me. But, you know, maybe they were being overzealous in protection. Maybe in playtesting they thought, oh, people are being kind of weird with it, especially our non-native players. So we are going to just put the kibosh on that. So I continue on. Reading the book, all seems to be going well. They're using some visualizations that are like, this is a cool Neo thing. This is new, and it's very like forward-thinking for us to put into this game about Indians taking control. The most notable one being the upside-down map. So the southernmost point in the map is present-day northern Canada, and the northernmost point is right around where Mexico and Panama, becomes South America fully. And there's a whole lot of baggage around that map, but whatever. I get to character creation, and every few pages there's a big purple note that says, for native players, do X, for non-native players, do Y. So it's things like, for native players, you get to name your character. If you're non-native, please select from this table of pre-written names. If you are a native player, feel free to name your tribe. If you're non-native, please only select one of these 5. If you are a native player, you're allowed to describe your character's jewelry and clothing and regalia. If you're non-native, please refrain from doing so at all times. It gets to the point where it describes in like the skills of how the game works. There's a ceremony skill that is only meant to be used for non-native players, specifically so that they can roleplay without breaking character too much while still not risking cultural appropriation. So I found this very frustrating. So I contacted the author on Twitter whenever I still had an account at the time. I don't now. And asked, hey man, what the hell? And they said basically along the lines of, hey, we wrote this game, and we just don't trust white people to play properly. In the book, it always says non-native players, but in the DM, it's very specifically said we don't trust white players to do this right. So then I was just very frustrated at that point, tried to get my points across, and one of the authors insinuated that I wasn't actually native. I didn't have a representative profile picture, but I opened up by saying, hey, I'm from X tribe, I supported this, here's my receipt number, like, here's my feedback on your game. And just being completely blown off as, like, actually you're lying to us was very frustrating. So while continuing on this discussion, at a certain point, they just blocked me. After mentioning, hey, I understand that you're trying to be careful about cultural appropriation, but if this is a tool meant to teach people, you're not going to teach them by barring them access to that knowledge. I thought this was going to be, hey, here are some in-depth descriptions of some ceremonies associated with these tribes. If your DM's cool with you using their specific tribe, feel free to ask them. Make this a real learning experience instead of just, no, you're not allowed to interact with baseline mechanics of the game whatsoever. Furthermore, whenever I did get blocked on Twitter, I was a little bit more petty at the time. So I joined their Discord and immediately got blocked because I had a similar Discord username to my actual one. Like, they didn't give me the chance to say anything in that server. So I did the only reasonable, natural thing to do, which was create a second fake Discord server that had nothing to do with my actual one and sneak in and see what they were talking about. And I found that there was an entire channel dedicated solely to, quote, owning the Nazis that my DM screenshots with my full username and everything had managed to make their way into. It's like, okay, uh, I don't know what I did to warrant this. I'd understand if I had, like, the usual Nazi shit you would find on Twitter nowadays on there. But no, I was just like a pretty visibly queer person on Twitter. Like, I even had a stupid webcomic profile picture. It was like, hey, here's some genuine complaints I had as a person from X tribe. And I just feel like this is incredibly insensitive in general. So, I don't know, just seeing an entire channel dedicated to owning the ride-oids to who are trying to interact with this game, and in theory should be one of your main audiences if you're trying to actually teach people, instead just having this be a self-aggrandizing jerk-off session was not the best play. All of the hype I had, all the, like, for the system just completely went down the drain. I didn't actually finish the book because of it. I was just left a very sour taste in my mouth. I didn't want to bother with trying to return it, so instead I just showed it to my friends. We had to sit down. We all laughed at it. A lot of the people close to me in my life are also American Indians, and we all generally agreed reading it, holy shit, this is not the way to do it. Like, I understand that there's a lot of identity politics, especially with American Indian identities nowadays, but it just feels so frustrating having to align that with American liberalism in particular. You can't really get any actual leftism through because that's just going to be squashed by the Democrats. And I had another discussion with a friend about this recently as well. So all you can do is go with the most pandering, nothing burger, milquetoast people on the planet who don't actually care about your opinions. And it didn't help that the authors of this book were your average 512th Cherokee people who made this as a sort of like coming back to grips with their tribal ties, rather than anyone like me who'd ever actually lived on a reservation and had to experience it. I'd really recommend that if you get the chance to look up kind of the things that are happening over at Standing Rock, the things that are happening with a lot of the Algonquin tribes recently, because it's a fairly sorry state. Biden did a lot for helping with funding for the tribes in particular, but that wasn't particularly flashy and never got proper news coverage. But if you can, mutual aid, support, just feed your local elder if possible. Just make sure to be a member of the community. I don't care what community that is. Well, that's a lie. If you're a fascist, fuck off. I don't want you here. That being said, just a very frustrating time. I tried getting in contact with them further. I tried just not really keeping tabs, but letting people know, hey, if you want to actually learn about how Native cultures works and where you can go, here's some additional resources. And I hadn't really thought about it until, again, I saw a pristine copy on the shelf of my local game store, and it just gave me memories back. Anyway, what I want to hear about y'all's terrible TTRPG stories, whether it's like playing in a game or learning over time that there was some fundamental rules difference. I have another one that comes to mind I might make a video about Apocalypse World 2nd Edition and just kind of the fan base around that game. I know it's one that is notorious for having a terrible fan base, but let me know what y'all think, and thanks for listening to me yap. I will try and provide screenshots where applicable with my copy. Cheers. Bye.